Welcome to Bloodbath & Beyond. Today we review Scream. What's your favorite scary movie?
Written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven, and starring Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Rose McGowan, Skeet Ulrich, Jamie Kennedy, and Matthew Lillard. A year after the murder of her mother, Sidney Prescott is stalked by a killer who's using horror movies to play a deadly game.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
This is a recommendation from Christy Mathers over on Patreon. She said that this was her favorite scary movie, and it's certainly one of ours. So I'm excited to talk about it, to be honest. Most of this review is going to be full spoilers, because we're basically gonna gush about certain things that we liked. So if you haven't seen it by now, you should probably watch it because it's awesome. So what do we like?
The story is like one of like the best whodunits, especially for this time period. It came out in like 96, and then all of a sudden we had like a run of like amazing slasher movies. When I saw this, like I was blown away at the ending. I could not believe there were two killers. I thought that was brilliant.
The way that the whole movie flows really screws with the audience, because not only are they acknowledging it in a meta sense and calling out certain tropes from horror so that they're like, hey, yeah, we're onto you, audience. We know what you think is gonna happen.
I didn't kill anybody. Nobody said you did. Thanks, buddy.
And they even like give you red herrings, such as Billy Loomis, and you're like, yeah, he's obviously the killer.
What do I have to do to prove to you that I'm not a killer?
And then they arrest him, and Sidney still gets calls, and you're like, well, it's not Billy. Well, what the hell's gonna happen? And then later on, Billy gets killed to the audience, and you were like, okay, it's definitely not Billy. Well, fuck, who could it be now?
Near the end, when Sydney's getting back into the house, you have Stu and Randy coming in, and at this point, you still don't know who the killer is. And she locks the door, Billy comes down, and that's when the reveal happens.
Stu's flipped out. He's gone mad.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
It's just unbelievable. It was a great whodunit. They were self-aware, and they totally played with the audience.
Corn syrup.
Including the iconic opening scene.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
This is easily one of the best opening scenes of any horror movie ever, because Drew Barrymore, she was high profile, she's on the poster, and she gets killed in such a great sequence. Just like the back and forth with the horror movies, so many quotable lines.
He's big and he plays football and he'll kick the shit out of you!
I'm getting scared. I'm shaking in my boots.
And some genuine tension, like even when he's like,
What door am I at?
I assume you're at the back door because he just gutted my boyfriend like a fish. And just everything about this whole scene, including when she just like dies in slow motion, like the chase sequence. Now we've seen that replicated in many films just because it's so influential.
And like the most impactful moment for me in that opening scene is when you see her parents at the front door and she's inches away from just like trying to call out to her parents. You're like, oh my gosh, she's gonna get a hold of her parents and everything's gonna be fine. And then when you see her hanging in the tree, it just set the bar.
But poor Steve, I'm afraid he's out.
Which leads to the rest of the cast. The cast in this film is fantastic. I absolutely loved basically every character. Neve Campbell, obviously you're gonna get behind. She plays the perfect like traumatized vinyl girl. Even just her first interactions with Billy, she's like shutting him down. You have sympathy for her and you can understand why she doesn't want to get with him.
Would you settle for a PG-13 relationship?
To like the whole group of friends, like they're just all really enjoyable. Randy is a highlight for me because he's the guy who you were at the time. You're like, well, I know everything about horror movies because I'm fucking 11 years old or whatever the hell.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
He worked at a video store and he's constantly talking about horror movies and you're like, yes, this guy just gets me. He loves the PJ Souls scene. Same.
Here comes the obligatory tit shot.
And then you have like Matthew Lillard as like the comic relief.
Better live her alone. Live her alone.
He's like super nice to everyone. He's considerate. He's just like tied in with everyone. He's like, hey Randy, come to my party even though Billy's gonna be there. And I know how much you love Sydney.
I'll be right back.
And he also did a really good job like in the finale. Definitely lots of quotables.
I'm feeling woozy here.
And just that whole sequence of them trying to spell out what their motive was going to be. And Stu in general, like when he like picks up the phone.
My mom and dad are gonna be so mad.
Just so many perfect moments. I love them all. But at the time, as a young boy, hitting puberty around this time, seeing Rose McGowan as Tatum, she was like one of my first loves ever. She's just like the perfect 90s babe. Plus she had a pretty badass kill.
Yeah, that whole sequence of her going into the garage,
What, because of the nipples? Of course you're thinking about the nipples.
even as almost 40-year-old men.
I'm still blushing about Tatum from 1996. Oh, the red was a great choice, Jay. Now we all match here.
You want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
And we can't forget like two of the most iconic people in the franchise in Courtney Cox playing Gail Weathers, the local news reporter who is running with Sydney's mother's story and making a book about it, which Sydney isn't too fond of.
I'll send you a copy.
But her character and her story mixed with like the love interest in David Arquette
When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law.
really added for some unique moments. For example, they have the news van outside, which is on a 30-second delay. They're watching things and they think they're gonna see the killer go and kill a bunch of people, so they go in to stop it and it's too late. Ghostface has already made his way to the van.
Oh my god! You killed Kenny! You bastard!
We haven't really talked about Ghostface himself. You have a new iconic killer that is very recognizable, but also the concept of the phone calls. These are things that we've seen all the way from like Black Christmas. You have this callback, and that's like riddled throughout this whole film, is there's so many things that they do that they're paying respect to other horror films. But like the use of the voice changer,
Surprise, Sydney.
and the fact that Roger Jackson is the voice of the killer. Most people know him from Animaniacs, but just having someone like that, like a professional voice actor, leaving this voice that you're never gonna forget.
What do you want?
To see what your insides look like.
You give it the Weird Al effect. If you're a musician and Weird Al parodies your song, you know you've made it. Well, in this case, the Wayans brothers just had a whole franchise to themselves based off of the Scream franchise.
What you doing, son? Nothing. Just chilling. Killing.
And I do like that they acknowledge that people can just go and buy this costume, because that adds to the element of who the hell is the killer when anyone can be the killer, especially when everybody's a horror fan.
Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
I was also really surprised to see Henry Winkler in this film. You either know him as the Fonz from Happy Days, the idiot character in like almost every Adam Sandler movie, or Arrested Development as the idiot lawyer. Or you Parks and Rec fans out there as the surgeon doctor. He always plays like usually comedy or like a buffoon character. To have someone like that in a horror film, it's different.
And also a brief red herring too. Now, what didn't we like?
It's a little nitpicky, and it's not that I'm gonna dock the film for this, but with every great horror film, usually there's a soundtrack or a score that can accompany it.
Yeah, that's true. There's nothing that like really stands out as far as the music is concerned.
If you think about all the iconic slashers, they have their own theme music, and if you were to say, what's Ghostface theme music? Like, it's not like it takes away from the film, but you feel as though Wes Craven, who has done this in the past, would have been able to do it in this film, because you know how crucial music plays to horror.
Now it's time for our final thoughts and ratings. Scream is one of my all-time favorite movies. Not only did it set the stage for modern slashers, but it also paid homage to a lot of slashers prior. Being that it is very meta, they acknowledge that in the movie, which was so mind-blowing at the time. I love the story, I love Sidney Prescott as a character, and I love that you can get behind her and what's going on in Woodsboro. All of the characters are excellent, the acting is fantastic, the kills are great and inventive, the intro scene is one of the best false starts ever, and the introduction of Ghostface, this new iconic killer, is amazing. Like, he's just too cool. The voice changer, it's one of those things that transcends regular horror movies. Like, every piece of media at the time, news, sitcoms, everything, even to this day, still reference Scream.
You hang up on me again, I'll gut you like a fish.
Give me the Tesseract or I'll gut you like a fish, Casey.
What's a fish?
And it's the first really, really iconic horror movie created in my lifetime. And that's pretty cool. And not to mention that the finale and the reveal of Billy and Stu working together and their whole reasoning for why this is all happening is great. I don't have any dislikes, so I'm gonna give this 5 Jiffy Pops out of 5.
There should be no surprise how much love we have for this film. It really did so much to the horror genre, and for us, it has more of a sentimental value because we were at that age where we got to witness it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
So much in this film worked. I loved the story and the whodunit aspect. When they had the final scene with the reveal, it was just such a shock that you couldn't have really seen it coming. We have an amazing slasher and Ghostface, both in look, sound, and overall presentation. We have great kills, we have great situations, and there really isn't anything negative about this. Even watching it again 25 years later, I still love it. It's easily one of my favorite horror movies, so with that being said, I give this film 5 Wes Craven cameos out of 5.
Cut, Casper. That's a wrap.
As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, stay up to date with everything on Bloodbath and beyond.